Ava thought she'd buried the past until the man she loved whispered a secret only her brother's killer could know. Ava Morgan thought grief was loud, but it was quiet, suffocating. Days after her brother Mason was found dead in that cold, empty warehouse, the world kept moving, but her world didn't. The police said it was a drug deal gone wrong. Her mother fell ill. Her father started drinking. And Ava, she became something unrecognizable. A shell, drifting through school, and waiting for answers that never came. Mason was the kind of person who left sticky notes with corny jokes, who built birdhouses for no reason. He didn't party, didn't do drugs, and he didn't go near the neighborhood where his body was found. She told the police that over and over again, but they shrugged. Just another dead college kid. Case closed. Ava leaned on her uncle Jason a lot in the months after Mason's death. Jason was a former detective, a calm presence who helped her peace. Together, what little the police gave them. He brought food when she wouldn't eat, drove her to therapy sessions when she couldn't muster the strength, and sat with her some nights, sipping coffee, talking about Mason's childhood antics. In those quiet moments, Ava found something close to peace. Nearly a year passed before Eli walked into her life. It was a rainy Thursday. Ava was working her usual shift at the bookstore, sipping lukewarm tea, and wondering if this was all life had left for her. He asked for a collection of books. The way he smiled made her blink. Not because he was handsome, though he was, but because it felt familiar, warm, like something she'd forgotten. He came back 2 days later, then again, and again, always with a new book request, always lingering just a little longer. His presence was like a whisper at first, soft, harmless. But it didn't take long before that whisper became her heartbeat. Eli was safe. Safe in the way I hadn't felt since before Mason's death. He didn't press her to talk about the past, didn't flinch when she cried silently in her sleep. He just stayed. He remembered her favorite coffee, took her on quiet walks, instead of loud dates, left her space when she needed it, and warmth when she did not. By the time they'd been dating for 8 months, Ava had started to imagine a future again. One with color, one with noise, one where she didn't wake up at 3 in the morning haunted by her nightmares. But all of that came crashing down with a single sentence. They were watching a late-night horror flick on her couch one night. Her head was on his chest, his hand tangled in her hair. The killer on screen swung a rusted pipe, and it clattered to the ground. A loud, metallic clang. Eli's body went rigid, subtle, but she felt it. She looked up at him. He swallowed, then said softly, almost offhand, "That's exactly what the pipe sounded like when Mason hit the floor." And it didn't move. Her heart seized. "What did you say?" she whispered. He blinked, then stammered, I think I read that somewhere." But no one had ever reported that detail. Not online, not in the autopsy released to the family. The only people who knew were Ava, her mother, and the coroner, and even the coroner had said it in confidence. That night, while Eli slept beside her, Ava stayed awake staring at the ceiling. Her mind raced through every word he'd ever said. Every moment they'd shared. A shadow settled across her chest that wouldn't lift. She searched his name online. Nothing. No digital footprint before that year. No high school. No college. No family. He was like a ghost with perfect teeth and warm eyes. The next week became an act. Ava laughed, kissed, pretended. But behind the mask, she was unspooling, watching, digging, asking subtle questions, comparing timelines. And then one night, Eli said he was going to the gym. Ava followed him. He drove 20 miles outside of town to a cabin in the woods. No lights, no signage. Through her binoculars, she watched him greet a man who looked like a soldier. No handshakes, no small talk, just a folder passed between them. She took pictures, sent them to her friend Mira, a data analyst she'd met in school. Mira ran facial recognition. 2 hours later, the results came back. Eli Cade was a federal agent, undercover, assigned to domestic intelligence, working on a sealed case. Ava sat in her car with her hands trembling. So many things suddenly made sense: his evasiveness, his lack of background, how he always seemed to guess right about things. But one thing didn't make sense. If he was undercover, why had he targeted her? She confronted him that night. Didn't yell, didn't accuse, just looked him in the eyes and asked, "Who are you really?" And this time, he didn't lie. He sighed. "I'm Elijah Cade. I work for a branch of the Dodge. I was sent here 6 months after your brother died. Because what happened to him wasn't a random crime." He told her Mason had discovered something. That during his internship at a logistics firm, he'd uncovered documents linking the company to cartel activity using corporate shipments to move illegal weapons. Eli claimed Mason was days away from exposing them when he was killed. "And you didn't stop it?" She whispered. "I wasn't there. I was assigned afterward to watch you, to keep you safe, and to find out who inside your circle might have been involved. Because someone close to you helped cover it up." Ava was silent. She wanted to scream, but something in her told her he was telling the truth, or at least part of it. Then he said it. "I think it was your Uncle Jason." Her breath caught. She shook her head. "You're lying." She refused to believe him, but Eli stood his ground. Jason, her uncle, the man who had held her through her grief, who had told her to stop searching, who had erased Mason's files from her old laptop by accident. With Eli's help, they set up a recording and invited Jason over. Jason came over and indulged in the bottles of alcohol that was offered to him. Then Ava led him into a conversation, mentioned the pipe, and his reaction was immediate. "I told that boy to leave it alone," Jason said. "Told him not to poke around, but he couldn't stop. Thought he was smarter than everyone else. He didn't say, killed him, but he didn't have to." The guilt bled through every syllable. Jason was arrested 2 days later. The agency swept in. Ava gave a full statement. It felt like the end of a long nightmare. She let herself collapse into Eli's arms. Let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe she could finally breathe. Until the notebook, it was under a floorboard in Mason's room. Ava hadn't been in there since the funeral. The leather was cracked, the pages full of scribbled names, diagrams, arrows, and one drawing, a sketch of Eli's face. Beneath it, in Mason's handwriting, it read, "He's not who he says he is. Says he's FBI, but I've seen him with them. If I disappear, it's him." Ava's blood ran cold. She sat on the floor, knees to her chest, notebook clutched to her ribs. She waited for hours. When Eli finally came home, she placed it in front of him. He looked at it. His face didn't change. He didn't deny it. "I didn't kill your brother," he said. "But you knew," Ava whispered. "I was undercover. Deep inside that ring. I couldn't blow my cover." Mason threatened to go to the police. "I warned him not to. I begged him. But he didn't listen," he said. "And you let him die," she whispered. "I had to protect the mission." "No, you protected yourself," she said coldly, then turned and went inside. She packed a bag and left before sunrise. Eli called, texted, said he loved her, that he didn't want to lose her, that he did it for the greater good. But Ava knew better now. She disappeared for 2 days. During that time, she scanned every page of Mason's notebook, uploaded the audio files, wrote a letter with names, dates, evidence. Then she went back. Eli opened the door, relief flooding his face. "I'm not going to the police," she said. He froze. "But if anything happens to me, if I so much as vanish, Mason's story goes public. Your confession, your face, everything." Eli stared at her like a man realizing he'd finally lost everything. "Ava, don't." He started, then paused and sighed. "So what now?" he asked. Ava turned. Her voice was steady. Now you get to live with what you did. Just like I do." And she walked away, not to forget, but to survive. The truth was a weight she would carry forever. But so was her brother's voice, a quiet echo in her memory. Keep going. And that was exactly what she planned to do. Months passed. Ava poured her grief into advocacy, working with the victims' rights organization. She finally testified against the logistics firm that murdered her brother, in a closed federal court under heavy security. The trial wasn't public. Too many powerful names were involved. In a room where suits outnumbered souls, Ava sat behind a wooden desk and told them everything. About Mason's internship, about the coded files he'd shown her 2 weeks before he died, about the notebook, the one he'd hidden under a floorboard, filled with company manifests, times, locations, and initials she didn't understand. Every page of that notebook was a nail in the coffin of Eastbridge Logistics. On the surface, they moved consumer electronics, but behind the invoices and polished PR, they ran weapons through shell companies and subcontractors, with the cell of the cartel embedded inside their operations like rot beneath wallpaper. The evidence sparked a federal raid, 27 arrests in 3 states, millions in assets frozen, the cartel's East Coast cell dismantled in just under 6 weeks. Headlines danced around the truth. Major corporate scandal uncovered. High-level smuggling ring exposed. But only Ava knew what really cracked it open: her brother's blood and her refusal to forget. Jason took a plea deal in exchange for testifying. The man Ava once called her second father stood before a judge with his hands shaking and his voice hollow. "I tried to warn Mason to back off," he said. "I never wanted him dead. But when they said they'd go after Ava next, I looked away, and by then, it was too late." He was sentenced to 12 years in a medium-security prison, eligible for parole in 6. Ava didn't attend the sentencing. She stood on the beach that day, the one Mason loved, and let the tide bury her toes while the waves took her sobs. And Eli. He showed up one day at a community center where Ava was giving a talk. He sat in the back, didn't speak, just listened. When she stepped outside, he followed. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "I've left the agency," he said. "Turned in everything I had testified to. I thought it might help." She studied him for a long time. The pain was still there, but so was the truth. She said nothing and left. But something in her eyes had given him hope. Eli remained in town, started teaching criminal justice at the community college under his real name, Elijah Cade. He never tried to be a hero in her eyes again, just a man learning to be better. And one rainy Thursday, exactly 2 years since they first met, he walked into the bookstore again, asked for a collection of books. And this time, she was ready.